Welcome, Cat.
Thank
Cat
you.
is a Coach X trainer at Equinox. She is my personal trainer at Equinox in Brickell Heights.
This is a big deal.
This is a big deal. You're on the spot.
Oh man, oh boy.
Everybody's always asking, Cat, how do you look like that? It's 'cause of you.
I appreciate that.
So, an overview of what everybody can expect to listen to today. We're going to talk about strength training for women, protein for women, the pressures of working in this industry, etc. So, let's dive right in. The power of strength training for women. Let's dive in. Why do women need to be strength training? And what is this whole stigma of women get too bulky when they lift weights, lift heavy weights, la la la. Let's hear why that is all bullshit.
So a lot of women are afraid of lifting heavy weights, mainly because it's like, oh, I'm going to get too bulky, like you mentioned. But it's a stigma because it's like, okay, if you're not eating well, most of the time that's when you're going to get a lot more bulky. But strength training is super important because if you're not strength training, then you're not allowing your body to get stronger and to prevent any injuries as we get older, like deterioration of your joints, of your bones, also to prevent anything from osteoporosis to, like I said, injuries or any health conditions going forward too. So like as you get stronger, your body is capable of achieving a little bit more.
Do you think that like by just doing Pilates, you can achieve this kind of strength for like long-term strength and
do you want
health?
my real?
No, I want your real opinion because I'm seeing this trend that like, I mean, I love Pilates, but I think it's great to mix in both. But that's why I want to ask your expert opinion. What do you think?
Professionally, I think that it's important to mix both. Yeah. If you're going to do Pilates, definitely need to strength train as well. If you're just doing Pilates, I've noticed a lot of people getting injured also because they don't have the strength to do certain movements. So they're creating a little bit more like hyper flexibility and they're not like gaining that range of motion properly. So then they get a little bit more injured, they deal with back pain, and then they have to stop, and then they stop exercising.
By injured, like are people like getting hurt, or is it like you said, like a little back pain, like just little things that we feel maybe that are connected to our workouts, but maybe we don't notice that they are?
Yeah, it's like a combination of that. Okay. But people aren't building up like real strength, right? It's more of like isolation of movements. It's great for core strength, amazing for pregnant women, right? So it's great for people that are like,
I'm like, oh.
Yeah. So if you're looking to have a baby.
No, I don't know why I got so excited about that. I'm like,
surprise. But like if for pregnant women, especially pre and postpartum, like if you're working on like pelvic floor, like muscles, that's super important for you to get stronger in. So learning how to engage your pelvic floor, Pilates is amazing for that. It teaches you proper bracing. It teaches you how to breathe well, how to elongate while bracing so you're not holding your breath and feeling like you're going to pass out. So there's a lot of benefits to Pilates. That's why I don't like trash talking it, because there's no point in trash talking it. But I feel like like everything else, there's ways that people do it incorrectly, right? Yeah. And if you're able to combine both Pilates and strength training, then you have a perfect combination, right? Yeah. It's allowing you to find more flexibility. Like I have a ton of clients that do both, right? They find great ranges of motion, especially men too, right? A lot of people are very stiff. So if you don't have ranges of motion in terms of like thoracic spine rotation or in like your transverse plane, then you're not allowing yourself to get into your full capacity of gaining strength. So then Pilates allows you to open that up, and then you feel really good on the floor and you're able to lift a little bit more, and then you get a lot stronger.
I love it.
Yeah.
So what is the difference between strength training and resistance training? Is there a difference? Because some people say Pilates is resistance training.
Well, there is resistance to it, right?
Yeah.
So like anything can technically be considered resistance training if you're adding some sort of resistance to it, right? So if you're creating like a banded booty workout, technically that's resistance training. But strength training is working on you're using resistance while building strength, right? So it all depends on programming, right? That's a big thing when it comes to being able to see progress in your body, as you've noticed. So as you're going through your programs, it's anywhere from 4 to 6 to 8 week cycles where your body's being able to adapt to a certain movement, as you're getting stronger. So depending on sets, repetitions, right? So you can work anywhere from strength to power to a little bit of endurance, or strength power, or strength endurance, right? So there's multiple ways to be able to engage your body to get a lot stronger. So it's like, there's just two different names of categorizing it. But strength training, resistance training, basically the same thing I would consider, right? Yeah.
I do want to talk about programming because...
Do you not like your program?
No. I should just start a new program. I love it. Because I think that literally before I started training with you, everyone gets these apps and there's like programs on the apps, but Number one, I've realized that I was not pushing myself anywhere near where we're at now. Obviously now it's been like since October we've been training, so I've progressed.
That's like 6 months.
Yeah.
Happy 6 months.
Happy 6 months. But even when we first started, you would like grab a dumbbell and be like, I can't lift that. And you're like, yeah, you can. And I'm like, okay. And then I would. But when I was on my own, I was carrying like 10 pounds. Like if I grabbed a 25-pound dumbbell, I'm like, this is the heaviest thing I'll ever pick up in my life.
Can you tell them what you did the other day that you were so proud of?
I'm proud of every time we work out. What was it?
You came in on Tuesday and you're like, I was working out at the gym by myself in Aspen.
Oh yeah.
And go ahead.
Oh yeah. Well, I was working out by myself in Aspen. Wait, which move? You say it.
You said that you picked up, instead of normally a movement that you would pick up like 10 pounds, you're like, I wanted to pick up 25.
Yeah. No, we were doing like a sculpt class. And I was
that's what it was.
It was like snatching a 10-pound dumbbell. I'm like, this is stupid. Like, why are we snatching 10 pounds? And I was like, I need to grab a bigger weight. And everyone's like, what? I'm like, yeah. But anyway, that's just because we've been training for a while. But yeah, the importance of programming, because I feel like there's so many apps and so much noise, especially influencers creating these apps. And I'm not saying they're bad, but it's really hard because you're not a program specific to you. So a lot of the times you're just working out and you're kind of honestly gassing yourself, but not seeing any results.
What was the question?
Just the significance of programming, like why it's important to be on a program to actually see results.
Oh, well, so programming is, like you said, it's very personable. So that's hence where personal training comes into play, right? So I'm not going to put someone through a program that's like, I made for you, right? It may benefit them, but the way that I push you is going to look very different than the way I push someone else, right? Or the way that I push someone else is going to look different than the way that I push you, right? So it's catered to each specific person. And most of the time, like with programming, like those programs that are online, right? It's easy to follow through. And depending if you know how to push yourself, you can see the same benefit, or you can slowly start to progress. But most people feel like they get stuck in their comfort zone, which happens all the time. So that's why with coaching, it helps to have someone there to push you a little bit more, because someone can just, ChatGPT can write a program, right? And they could take my job away and be like, here's a program. But what they're not going to be able to take away is the coaching aspect, right? So looking for specific ways of how to engage certain things, right? I could tell someone to go do a deadlift or a squat, but if they're not doing it properly, or if they're not feeling their glutes or their hamstrings, or like able to hinge properly, then they're not seeing the same benefit from the program that they would with working with a coach, right? So program specificity happens because it's like, okay, maybe for example, someone's hip may hurt a little bit, or someone's dealing with a knee injury or back injury or shoulder impingement or something, right? But doesn't mean that they can't train. The program should be specific to be able to allow them to like get stronger, not to be able to just make that muscle stronger, but also to be able to be like, hey, I feel empowered still to feel good and to make progression, to see that I'm capable of doing certain things without it being like I'm limited because I'm handicapped. So I think that's where program specificity is super important, because it's like you want to make it for each individual person, but it's depending on the movements, right? The combination of movements, some things like may work better than other things, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I feel like I personally right now don't have like a personal trainer. I'll just work out on my own.
But I have availability.
But I have done personal training, and I feel like everyone at some point should invest in it for some time, because I feel like then you really do learn how to do the movements properly. Because if not, sometimes you could be doing, even if you do look online and like say you find a program that works for you that you like, you may just not be doing it wrong. And one thing that I don't like when I go to Pilates classes or a few classes that I'll do, I have ClassPass, is that I want to say like 5% of the instructors actually come by and fix your posture and your alignment. And so you can be doing it and then you are going to injure yourself, or you're not doing it properly. You're actually not hitting the muscle that you're supposed to be doing. So you're just like doing a workout wrong. And I feel like it's important to at least learn, or get someone to teach you, really, if you can, to learn how to do them properly. I think that's what's like long-term, you're going to be working out more efficiently and actually hitting what you want to work on.
Exactly. And like getting the most benefit out of it. Like even as a coach, like the certifications that I've taken, I was like, I've been learning so much individually with those certifications on like how to make things better, right? Like, yeah, the movement is the movement, but can you maximize what you're getting out of that movement so that you're not getting injured? And if you do get injured, how do you learn to get better, right? But yeah, 100%. I think everyone, even coaches need coaches. I have a coach, right? Because it's necessary to be able to see, like, if it was up to me, I would do everything that I like. right? I wouldn't push myself. I mean, yes, because I have in the past, but it's more so like, okay, it's a different viewpoint of being able to see what someone needs and how they move versus just being like, oh yeah, I'm just going to put you through a basic program, right? And that's where group fitness tends to differ than like Pilates, because I feel like Pilates still has that like one-on-one attention if you're going to like a reformer class. They still give you that like, hey, attention to detail, let's go ahead, fix this, fix that, et cetera, et cetera.
How do you think confidence is linked to doing weight training?
I think that's like one of the biggest thing I see like with clientele, right? And I love being able to see where someone starts and then being able to see how much they've grown, even in a short period of time, right? Like it makes me emotional to be able to see like where someone starts. Like not everyone starts in a low point, but when those people do come in and they're just like straight up miserable, and then they over time, you're just like, hey, like, okay, you got this. It's empowering because they get stronger. They're capable of seeing themselves in a different light. They stand up a little taller. They sit up a little taller. They brighten up. They come in with their eyes a little bit brighter. And I'm like, how are you feeling? It's like, yeah, like, oh my God, my life is so much more amazing. Like, I feel good. Like, I'm less back pain. I sleep amazing. Like, and little by little, like without them even realizing, they're making little choices in their life to be able to have a lifestyle change instead of it just being like just strength training, right?
Yeah.
I agree. And I think that the same has happened for me, and nothing's a coincidence in life, as we always say. But even now, like, I'm running a race. Like, I don't run. You are the one who's like, yeah, do it. Like, you can do it. Like, I think that, like, great, now I'm getting emotional. But it's just like, I'm like, I can't run a race. And you're like, why not? Like, yeah, you can. Like, you have strong legs. You have a heart that beats. Like, it's like, why can't you do it? And now you're like, you tailored my program to make me, like, run more and do this. And I ran 4 miles the other day. And I was like, wait, how did I just do that?
That's crazy. You ran 4 miles straight?
Like, pretty much, yeah.
Oh
I mean, I ran
God.
4 miles straight. I had to, like, walk because my heart rate was at, like, 195 at some point, so.
Yeah, we don't want that.
We don't want that. I was going too fast, though. She's like, why are you doing that? I'm like, I don't know. So, but it's just crazy because, like, when you have someone like you in your life to push you, then you do get more confident because it's like, wait, someone's telling you you can do that. Then you do it, and you're like, wait, oh my God, like, I'm capable of hard shit, you know?
Yeah.
Tangent, but anyway.
No, it's true.
Yeah.
100%. And it's like having that extra person of giving you the reassurance that you didn't know you needed, right? To be there as not just someone that's being like, okay, we're going to lift this. It's like, okay, we're going to lift this. Sorry. We're going to lift this and we're going to allow ourselves to like feel better about what we're doing outside, right? Like I laugh a lot when I'm training, as you know, but it's more so because I'm laughing with you more than laughing at someone because I'm like, I get it. Like I also very much like as a trainer, yes, I doubt myself in certain ways, but it's knowing and how much power there is in being able to lift and feel strong. It makes you feel, am I allowed to curse?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It makes you feel that much more of a badass.
Yeah.
Right? And you then, once you do that, like once you lift a certain amount, like you're like, you walk around the rest of the day and you're like, yeah, I lifted that shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you feel good.
Yeah, you eat the frog. You can do it in the morning.
Yeah.
Or whatever time you work out. But if you get through that workout, you're like, wow, I actually feel so good.
Yeah.
I'm like so dramatic when we work. I'm like, I'm like breathing heavy. I'm like, how many more?
I feel like you're like so calm, collected, cool. Just do it. I've seen her in classes like Pilates and mat Pilates. She's like, she just does the movements, like breathing in and out.
You know what?
You keep it cool.
That shit's different than what we do in this gym.
I just have never seen you do this kind of training.
I fear for my life when we're working out. Like,
No,
I feel
she
like
doesn't.
My heart is going to jump out of my chest.
Oh
and
my
into the
God.
river.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, why am I doing a lunge and I can't breathe? And she's like, yeah, sometimes I just like feel like throwing up when I do that. I'm like, yeah, like, that's exactly how I feel right now.
Oh,
You'll be
It
fine.
happens. You'll
Oh my
survive.
God.
That's what happens.
You'll survive.
I'm like, can we do like 6 instead of 10? She's like, no. I'm like, okay. See, like if I were alone, I'd be like, I'm not fucking doing 10 of this. You know?
Yeah, that's me at my workouts. I'm like, mm-hmm.
You're like- So let's talk about toning. I love this word,
Oh,
toning.
God.
What's the vibe with toning? Why do all trainers like say this is a fake word?
Because you can't
I love
tone.
to be toned.
I have an affirmation every morning. I am lean, strong, and toned. Whatever.
I love
Lean
that.
you can be.
Yeah.
Toned you can't. But I understand why people use the word toned because it's like the
So what does tone? What does it mean then? I feel like I'm toned.
Just speak your opinion. Say
No,
it.
I know. I'm trying to think of like how to describe the way that I look at toned is like a sculpture, right? And I think that's kind of, I could be putting words in people's mouths, but like that's the way that I look at when someone says toned. They're like, oh, I want to be toned. I'm like, okay, cool. We're just going to sculpt you.
Yeah.
right? But that also means
Right.
that you're being leaner,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So that's why it's like
And stronger.
exactly, and stronger, and like less body fat percentage. You're looking good. You're looking lean. Your toned is just like a word that I feel like just sounds and rolls off the tongue a little bit better than lean does, right? Lean, you think of like lean cut chicken,
Yeah. Yeah.
lean cut steak.
Yeah.
But
You're
people
not,
in Pilates are like, get toned arms by doing this.
yeah, because it's like going from looking not like sculpted to looking sculpted, right? And that's why I'm like, I feel like that's what it simulates essentially when someone's explaining what they want to be, right?
Right.
So like when I sit down with a client and I'm like, hey, like tell me let's go through this assessment. What are your goals? The first word that they say is like, oh, I just want to be toned. Okay, what does that mean to you?
Yeah.
Right? So it's like there's a different significance for what being toned means, right? And that's why it's like important to get into a deeper reason, or it's finding out someone's deeper why, right? So like someone may come in and be like, oh, I just want to lose weight.
Yeah.
Okay, but what is the reason behind that? Same thing with someone being like, oh, I just want to come in and be toned. Okay, but why? What does that mean to you? What does that look like to you? Right? Because tone could look different to everyone.
So when people come in, what do you think most people say? They say they want to lose weight, they want to get toned, and when you actually start working with them, like, are people really looking for a lifestyle change? Like, what are people really looking for, just to feel better? Like, what is the deeper common theme you're seeing from people?
More
when they
often
come
than
in?
not, lifestyle change, right? And that's like the deep rooted significance of like someone either went through something really traumatic, right? Whether it was like recent or in their past life, like whether they were bullied, whether their mom died, whether their dad died, whether, God forbid, they were in a car accident or they went through a really big injury, something that happened in their life that they need to heal from, right? So more often than not, a lot of the way that I look at it and the way that I like to approach it is like, oh, you're coming in because you want to be healed, right? And not everyone needs healing, right? No one's perfect. And at every moment and every stage of your life, you're going to look for a significant way to be healed. And whether it's right now through exercise and fitness, that's the way that we're going to do it, right? And that's why I love preaching, like, movement is medicine. And like, you're going to come in, whether you're feeling like shit, whether you're feeling really good, whether you're feeling like bloated, whether you're feeling like super lean or toned, right? Like, you're going to come in and we're going to move and we're going to feel good about it. And like, even if you're dealing with an injury, something's going to happen. But most of the time, like I mentioned earlier, like people come in for a deeper sense of healing more than anything.
I really love that. And how do you see, like, as people progress on their journey, how do you see that like actual movement and this lifestyle change like changes them from the outside? How do you see it?
Confidence, for sure. So confidence is a big thing, and believing in themselves, right? And deep down, like when people start believing in themselves and like that they're capable of doing stuff, then they have a whole different perspective on life. And so much more opens up, like doors open up for them because they feel and they present themselves a lot better, right? And that, like, that's why I love being part of people's journeys. And I know it's not permanent, but seeing how people advance through it, it's like, you did the damn thing. Like, I'm proud of you. Like, that's great.
I love that you're also like a very spiritual person and like astrologically inclined, such as us.
Oh, love.
So I feel like that's also why you view it that way, because it's like we say, nothing's a coincidence, and it's like you're making this change, and like one door opens and another door opens, because like the confidence is starting at the gym, but then flowing into every other aspect of your life.
Absolutely.
So it I think it also like goes along with affirmations, and we always talk about that.
Yeah.
But it's incredible because people say like, oh, you have to go to the gym, you have to move your body, you need to work out, it's healthy. But like, you are seeing it from another side where you're actually helping people and you're actually seeing people come in. And the reason why it's never really that superficial, like, oh, I want to lose weight, whatever. It's always something deeper.
Yeah.
And then when you see their change, what you told me is not even a physical change. It's not even that they're getting stronger or they got lean and toned. That's what's making them happy in the end. It's that it's confidence, that they feel good about themselves. So it really goes to show how moving and working out and having that as an integral part of your routine really just lifts your spirits. It's so important.
Yeah, I agree. And I kind of want to talk about like women's body composition a little bit, like as we get older, because literally when I first saw you, I think it took me so long to realize like I will never look like what I looked like when I was like 19, 20, 21 ever again. It's just like probably not going to happen, you know?
Yeah. No.
Just like,
No, I just like, 'cause
We have a
every
lot of
time
feelings
I'm
about that,
working
huh?
out- What?
I said you have a lot of feelings about that, huh?
No, because
yeah. One singular tear.
like when I work out, I'm like, I'm doing this so that I look toned as fuck when I'm toned. So I look lean and green, feel strong when I'm 40, 50, 60. Because then this happens to me at the gym. Then I'm like, I'll never be this young. So I'm doing this now also so that for later, I try to look as close as I can.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And feel as close as I can to this, which I'll never get.
No, I know. And like when we were that age, we had, I think, probably a lot of girls.
I will say that was not my best body at 19.
Okay. I think mine maybe was. But we both had such toxic relationships with our bodies
Absolutely.
and working out at that age. So regardless, it's not like good. And that's what I always just tell myself. I'm like, okay, whatever. You don't look like that, but you were so miserable, and it was like everything was a punishment. Like eating punishment, working out punishment. Fuck you, you suck. Like, you know, like no, evil. I was evil to myself. I think you were too.
No, I think we were all really hard on ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, agreed, same.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But that's where it's like going based off of what you guys touched base on with like the whole aspect of it not being just about the physique, right? It ends up being the physique, right? Because like that's the byproduct of you healing internally.
Yeah.
Because you're putting less pressure on yourself to look a certain way, act a certain way, or do something in a certain like standard. Yeah. You're like, you step back from that and you accept yourself more. Yeah. So you're just like, yeah, this is like, okay, I love myself for who I am. And like, you're capable of like achieving certain things because you're like, okay with it.
Mm-hmm. I actually feel like that's literally what happened to you. Like you change because you like really.
I'm like, tell me what happened to me.
You talked about this.
I will read your palm. No, okay.
Like you like relinquished so much control and like stopped like overexerting so much energy and like I don't know. Like you told me you were like, I'm not doing cardio anymore. I'm just doing this. Like I'm just relaxed. Like you just calmed yourself down really.
I think I did. Well, it was like COVID time, so I think I was just like, I think everything like calmed down in a sense.
You either calmed down or you didn't.
I was gonna say.
I didn't.
I was like, neither did I.
I calmed down because I was just like, okay, I'm back home. Like, what can I do? And I think I just, I think that I was so fixated on like cardio is how I'm gonna lose weight. Like this is what I'm gonna do. But I wasn't eating well. I was drinking a lot more, and I was just doing cardio. And I'd go to the elliptical, and I'd hate it.
Yeah.
So it's just like no shit. I didn't lose any fucking weight, and I didn't look good, and I didn't feel fucking good. You know. But then I got back during COVID, and I was living in New York, and now I'm like, the sun every day. You know. And I started going on more walks, and then when I started working out, I would just do things from my balcony. It wasn't even something crazy, and then like the food, like. I was just starting to eat healthier. I was eating more at home. Like I think like it was a huge lifestyle change.
No, everything changed.
Everything changed.
I think the biggest thing that changed is that you just like chilled out a little.
I chilled out. And then the other thing that really changed was I really started to do weights. I didn't have a trainer at that time, but I was just like, fuck this cardio bullshit. I'm not going like on the treadmill or on the elliptical for 60 minutes. That's so boring. Yeah.
But you also started taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
Right? And that's like the biggest thing. Like you were giving yourself good food. You were taking yourself on walks. You were giving yourself sunshine. You were doing movements that weren't like strenuous or adding to your stress.
And then it's like I started slimming down and then I was doing weights and I was like, oh, like I'm starting to see this tone. Like I'm starting to see something. I'm starting to see a difference. And then after that, I was like, I'm not going back.
Yeah.
You know?
Anyway, my original like question.
Well, you were like, this
is all important. The original question.
She had a whole healing process go on right now.
Welcome for the therapy. Was
thank you.
Like when I first initially saw you, I was like, okay, I'm not gonna look like how I looked like when I'm 19, whatever. Hated that life anyway. Mm-hmm. But and I'm not gonna like compare this version of myself to that's the thing. Like I wasn't even comparing myself to like Adriana Lima. I'm like comparing myself to younger me, and it's like you're not gonna be there. But I've slowly also learned to realize that like after 25, like your body just also really changes as a woman. And I want you to like talk about that in case people don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely does, right? So 25, I want to say, especially for women, is like our second puberty. Yeah. Right? So like first time is like, I want to say anywhere from 14 to 16, right? When you start to get your menstrual cycle and everything. 25 is when you're entering like your phase of like feeling like you're in a woman's body. And it is the weirdest thing. Like, and it'll happen to everyone because you're like in your when you're 20s, like early 20s, up to 24, I want to say, into 25, you're like, oh, I still feel like kind of small. Like I feel pretty good. Like you heal really quickly. Like you don't have to warm up as much. You can just like you can go out to drink and then you wake up the next day with like with no hangover and you're fine.
Yeah.
You're chilling.
Yeah.
Literally.
If you turn 25,
spectacular.
different.
Yeah.
So it's skirt, we're going the other way. So it's more so like you're entering a different part of womanhood. Instead of being a girl, you become a woman, and your body starts to change, right? So you become a little bit more like, we become curvier, right? Our body, our metabolism starts to slow down if we're not taking care of it. Depending on what we eat, we have to be careful with what we're eating. We can't drink as much as we used to. So a lot of things change as you get older, just naturally because of the way that your body like goes through its like adulthood, essentially, right? And as you get older. But I do have to argue with you that you're not going to ever look like you're going to be 19, but it doesn't mean that 19 was your best self.
No. And also, I think, okay, let's say like that's the vision in my head of what I want to look like. I think I can, but not how from what I was doing before.
Correct.
That's what it was. Like, all I was doing before was going to SoulCycle, drinking 100 tequila shots, and drinking like Natty Lights, like whatever the fuck those are.
Like the best lifestyle.
Yeah, and like,
college.
2 SoulCycle classes the next day, and I'd be cool.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, and bacon, egg, and cheeses. Like, okay, not doing that anymore.
No. So after 25, you can't do that.
Yeah. So
Wild.
10 out of 10, do not recommend.
But anyway, that sounds horrible to me right now. I'm throwing up at the thought of that.
Yeah.
But it's like you have capabilities of looking better.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And that's why it's like, as you take care of yourself, and as you even notice, like during COVID, it's like, as you start to give yourself better food, you start to feel better, you start being a little bit more conscious of the choices that you're making, just so that you do feel better. Because if you don't, you feel like shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I do think that like trauma and things do impact the body. Like, I feel like I realized that a little bit after. And like, that's okay. Like, you know, like, I'm like, why do I look like this? Like, why am I gaining weight? And I'm like, oh, my mom just died. Like, it's okay to like feel a little bit like off right now. But I remember like it took a few months. So I'm like, wait, why do I look like this now? And it's like, okay, wait, I haven't been like healing or doing anything for myself. So like, I'm sure my body's kind of like, hey, pay attention to me. Like, we're over here.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, fine. I have to do something about this. So also just for people that are going through anything and like you're noticing your body like just not feeling good, like it also could be attached to that. But let's talk about nutrition, because how can women achieve, I guess, this lean physique while strength training? Because we say like, okay, you're gonna get bulky if you're not eating well. So what do we need to be like eating and thinking about, at least in a general way, of if we're strength training?
Definitely focusing on prioritizing protein, right?
How much protein? What's the deal with protein? You know, like 30 grams per meal.
What kind of protein?
One gram of protein per body weight. Like,
That's a lot. Like, I'm like, this is too much for me. I already lost. I don't even know what a gram is. So let's talk.
Take out the scale.
Like in layman terms, like what kind of protein?
So leaner proteins, obviously, right? Less processed. So if you need to for supplementation purposes, like feel free to grab like a protein shake to help in like to get you to your goal, right? But if you're not someone that measures, if you're not someone that wants to start like calculating all these numbers,
if you don't want to do macros and like stress out.
Yeah, like that makes it a lot more complicated. That's another approach that I take. Like, yes, you can get to a certain goal and a certain body weight and a certain like physique when you're doing that stuff, and like kudos to those people that do it, especially people in the bodybuilding field. But like for day to day, I feel like for the common gen pop, it's not necessary to count macros. Like, yes, it allows you to understand like portions and stuff, but for the most part, portion control is what's going to get you to your goals, right? Not overeating, having certain everything in moderation, right? But in terms of protein, like you want to be having protein every single meal, right? And that should be the biggest thing that's taking up on your plate, plus all the veggies, right? So for breakfast, let's say like eggs, like instead of it just being 2 eggs, maybe 3 eggs with a little bit of avocado. If you eat fish, a little bit of salmon, you're good to go, right?
That's like super protein, like packed.
Yeah, exactly.
I literally had a steak.
That sounds so yummy.
Beautiful.
I
Wow.
had like leftover steak from Coco, like a little piece, and I was like, fuck it.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Or like people do surf and turf, right? So ways that you're getting in a little bit of protein within each meal. Carbs are not bad also, by the way, as long as they're complex carbs. Simple carbs are the ones that you kind of want to stay away from, because those are the ones that increase your glucose levels. So that's where you start to store a little bit of fat, and people that are sensitive, you can create diabetes, et cetera, et cetera. But like in terms of food, like you want to eat well-balanced meals, things that are not processed, things that are not packaged, things that you can cook at home, right? If you are eating out, making healthier choices with what you're eating, instead of going for like the pasta, the lasagna, let's go ahead. If you're craving pasta, put some chicken in there, you know, like prioritize that a little bit more, and then eat the pasta after that, or like mix it in and like make sure you eat all your chicken and then you have the pasta, a little bit of your pasta, right? Because protein also like satiates you a little bit more. So like as you're more satiated, you're less likely to have cravings, you're less likely to snack, you're less likely to like eat all the time when you're not supposed to and overeat, essentially.
Do you guys really feel like protein fills you up?
Okay. As you can tell, we are opposite bodies. Her and her mom, like, they're very carb-oriented people, and that works for you.
Like, I will say, like, maybe, because as you're talking, I'm thinking, and I'm
You're
like,
all eat is carbs.
no, I eat protein too, and I try to put protein. But I'm saying, like, in the moment, I had for lunch, like, 2 servings of rice and lentils and a chicken. I would serve myself twice the rice and lentils because that in the moment makes me feel more full. But maybe I'm thinking like maybe later on I'll get hungrier sooner. Maybe the protein's what keeps me lasting. But I don't think about that in the moment as I'm eating. That's why I asked you guys, like in the moment, do you feel like protein fills you up in the moment, or is it like a later thing that you won't get hungry so soon?
You have to wait, I want to say maybe like 10 minutes after you eat. Right? Because if you do it like directly based off of like, okay, you just finished eating, am I still hungry? Your body hasn't fully digested yet, or like the food hasn't fully hit. So
She also fasts. Like, it's just a whole different story.
We're different. It's okay.
yeah, everyone's different.
No, but I'm saying like it also might be like maybe because you fast, you get hungrier again.
Yeah, that could be it too.
Like, I know it works for you, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying that could also be it. It may not be the carb.
No, it could be I still eat protein, but I'm just like eating so much protein.
But I know because I'm like, she'll like eat chicken and be like, I'm not satisfied. Like I need the rice or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, yeah.
Well,
Like,
you
I'll have
can't
a chicken
just
salad
have
and I'll be
protein.
like, I need the carb.
Yeah.
You do need a carb.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
100%. Like I'm
You
not
know,
saying no
like,
carbs. Like please eat carbs.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that is good for you. And especially
Okay.
as someone that's like moving all the time and like you're walking around, right? You're very active, you're running, right? That's going to increase the amount of carbohydrates that you need. But again, staying away from more of like the simple carbs. I'm saying like don't grab a bag of chips and be like, okay, this is my meal.
Yeah.
No.
Like
not
that's
the bad
essentially,
route.
yeah.
No.
But that's what I mean. So it's like if you're having lentils and rice, by all means, go for it. Technically, veggies are a carb, right?
Yeah.
But they have a lot more fiber, so they fill you up a lot quicker. But that's why it's like when you're eating a lot of carbohydrates, right? Or like actual complex carbs with your veggies and then your protein itself. I always say start with the protein so that you don't leave that for last and you leave it left over. So at least you're hitting your protein goal
Got you.
and also getting in your carbohydrates, your veggies, and your
That's a practical
rice.
tip that people can actually do.
Yeah.
So what about like how much protein in each meal?
That varies per person, right? So depending on like body weight, what someone's goal is, right? So if someone that's trying to gain muscle mass, for women, it's anywhere from 1 times your body weight to like 1.5, right? So it's a lot of protein.
It's like a lot.
Yeah,
But she just said make sure it's the biggest thing on your plate.
exactly.
I guess like an easy way to think
Yeah.
about it when you're serving yourself. What do you think is important before you work out and post working out? Is there something we should eat before to fuel up? I honestly work out as I fast. I don't know if that's recommended or not.
She did have thoughts on that. Also, can you do it like maybe it's different before strength training and before running, for example?
Yeah,
I
give
would
us an example of what we should eat before and after.
Okay, so I would say like it's for women and men, it's a little bit different. So men can go through a fasted workout, whether it's strength training or endurance or running or something, fasted and feel totally fine. Some women can too, but in terms of like hormonal health, I think it's not the best. And there's been a lot of like studies and scientific facts that like it's not the best to go into a fasted workout for women versus men.
Why?
Right? Because of the estrogen levels, right? So as we're supposed to produce, and it messes with your menstrual cycle. So as you're consuming, like it doesn't have to be a lot of food, but it's just something to start your digestive system to keep going. And depending on your cycle. So Mel Robbins actually has like a really good podcast with a doctor on it. I'm not a doctor. So she talks a lot more about the menstrual health on women and depending on what phase you are in your cycle, whether it's okay to fast and whether it's not really healthy for you to fast.
Oh my God.
So-
like, there's so many things to think about.
It's so much information.
Yeah.
That's why like working with clients, I'm always like, don't overwhelm yourself.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're going to stress yourself out more the more you try to take on versus just start with drinking more water. Like
Yeah.
eat a little bit more protein. What can we control? Not, hey, give me the handbook. Like, no, that's not how it works. That's not how changes are made. And the people that come in and want that at first, they like, I know they're just stressed.
Me. I'm like, what do I eat? When do I eat it? When are we working out? She goes, I just need you to sleep. She literally said, she goes, I don't want to talk about anything besides you going to sleep. And I'm like, what do you mean?
And you're like, this has nothing to do with my workout. It's in the gym.
But it does.
Yeah, but it does.
Right. And it's like learning to manage stress, right? So there's a lot of different ways in like how things that are not focused on just the gym or nutrition have such a big role on like how people are seeing progress, right? Stress is a big one. You experienced it with you, like you said, your mom passing away. When people go through a traumatic effect, like they deal with a lot of stress in that aspect, so their body reacts in a certain way. Some people gain weight, some people lose a lot of weight, right? Whether they binge eat, or even if they're not binge eating and they still gain weight because their body is just so stressed. And again, that goes into the hormones, right? So your cortisol level starts to increase. As your cortisol level increases, that's your bad stress hormone. And then if you're working out and you're putting in like a hard workout, then you're increasing your cortisol. And instead of it being a eustress, which is a good stress, it adds into that bad stress. And then it defeats the purpose of the workout. So it's like focusing on, hey, can we do something that's going to benefit us?
What about post-workout?
I never answered your question.
Oh, yeah.
Beforehand, I would say, like a carb.
And what's post?
Yes. Mine was more of like a recommendation of like women should eat before workout.
Yes,
Men can go fasted if not.
No, this is very important.
Yeah.
I should take note of this.
And it could be like a snack. It doesn't have to be a lot.
Yeah.
And if you're not used to eating beforehand,
I'm really not. I think that's the thing. I'm not hungry.
Yeah.
I'm not used to it.
most people aren't. But that's also like
She's like, eat, bitch.
yeah, it could be a sign of stress.
Yeah.
Your body and like your hormones may not be balanced because of the fact that you wake up and you're not hungry. Typically, you should wake up hungry, right? You just fasted. Yeah, that's great because you fasted basically for.
Great. My hormones are out of whack.
Again, not a doctor. Not a doctor. But like you just fasted for 8 hours, right? Depending on how long you slept for or how long when your last meal was. Like if you have dinner at 9 p.m. and you're waking up at 8, you fasted for a little less than 12 hours. So you should be hungry when you wake up. But then if your next meal isn't until 12, then it's like, okay, what's going on there? So pre-workout, I would say like anywhere from having like a light carb and a fat, like easy digesting. So banana or banana with peanut butter or rice cake with a little bit of peanut butter on it, or just a banana. That's also okay. But it's okay to have that fast digestion.
Catch me buying a shit ton of bananas now and just eating them before the gym.
Do it. And you'll feel good. You'll have like a burst of energy, right? Because your body uses that initial like glucose storage to help you push through that workout for the beginning. And your body uses a lot of glucose to help you get through the workout. So in order to have energy without hitting like a crash and like feeling your full potential, have like a little bite of something to eat, right? And then post-workout, prioritizing your protein. So again, speaking in terms of protein, it doesn't have to be just protein, but if you don't have, let's say you're rushing, right? Everyone's super busy. Like you just hit the gym and you have to go and you don't have time to cook or like time to do protein shake. Cool. And then when you finally sit down for your meal, prioritize having a clean protein with some veggies, with some carbohydrates.
So talk to us a little bit about cardio and how we should incorporate cardio with the strength training. How many times a week? I know just generally speaking, how many times should we be doing strength training? And should we be mixing in cardio? And if so, how much?
Like zone 2 specific.
I was going to say, should we be getting to some zones over here?
How scientific do we want to get?
Low-key, my zones today were crazy. I was like in zone 5 for a while. And I was like, wait a minute, that's...
I work out too soft on myself.
No, I was in tennis and like I didn't have a choice. Like the guy I play tennis with literally does not care about me. He's like, keep going. I'm like, okay. But it's fine.
Brutality.
Yeah.
Well, it depends, right? Depending on everyone's goal. But I would say it's important to do both.
Just
right?
like, regardless, I guess their goal, but just like, what's a general thing for us to just like keep on doing for the rest of our lives? Like
anywhere for 3 to 5 days a week of strength training / resistance training.
3 to 5 times a week?
Yeah.
She's like,
Well, Pilates kind of counts, right? So however many days you go to Pilates.
Yeah, it
That's
kind
like
of
a
counts. I'm trying to do 3 times a week.
Perfect. There you go. Start with that. You don't have to go the full 9 yards and do 6 days of working out. Do something that's sustainable also, right? And remember, you want it to be like lifelong instead of it being like a chore where you're just like, fuck this.
Yes, exactly.
So like, that's why I say 3 to 5, because 6 is like too much for some people, but then there's other people that want to be working out 7 days a week. And it's just like, chill.
Yeah.
And then for cardio aspect, same thing. I would do anywhere from 3 to 4, right? But that also goes into more of like
that's too many days in the week.
No, you
But,
double
yeah.
up.
She's like, you won't have to together.
But like a walk,
Yeah.
right? So like a little bit of a brisker walk, movement is essentially is what I'm talking about. If you're specifically going into like zone 2 cardio, right, to like target those heart rate zones, or if you're training for a race, right, that's where you're going to increase the cardio load because that's when you're working on a little bit more endurance. But if you want just cardio heart health, like, right, so it's good for your cardiovascular health, anywhere from 3 to 4 days a week, that's perfect, right? So it should be done like right after your workout, or if you don't want to stay after, do it beforehand, right? If your goal is not reaching a certain performance, you could do it before or after. As long as you stay within your zone 2, then you're good.
It's just hard to be in zone 2. It's harder than you think.
Oh no.
You're either in zone 1 or you're in zone 4.
No, I'm aware because I'm always in zone 0 and 1. I look at my hoop and I'm like, oh, zone 1.
No, it's just like,
And then it goes to zone 2 for like 1 minute. It's back down.
you know, but also your like resting heart rate is like 90. So I don't know. Yeah.
Your resting heart rate is 90?
It's like high.
I don't know. We need to check.
Are we
this.
doing okay?
Yeah.
I think so. Okay. I think we're doing fine. Okay, but that's a great way to just keep counting our head. 3 to 5 times a week strength training, 3 to 5 times a week cardio.
Yeah. It's like as soon as you come in strength train, go to hit the cardio deck
Okay.
for at least 20 to 35 minutes. Right?
Gotcha.
But what is the difference between doing zone 2 and zone 4?
How did we get to zone 4?
Like soul cycle or like going for a
Yeah.
run or playing tennis. Like those things, like how, like when you think like, oh, I can just do zone 4 for 20 minutes instead of zone 2 for 45. Like what is just the difference?
So zone 4, both have a really good effect on VO2 max, right? So that's like your lung capacity and how much oxygen your body can take in and et cetera, et cetera. It's like a whole scientific knowledge behind it. Again, not a doctor.
My VO2 max was like, it's severely bad. It literally said like
No.
severe. I was like, okay.
But a lot of it is also like depending on how you train,
Yeah.
your upbringing, what you're capable of handling in the moment, right? So there's like science that shows that VO2 max is basically your base level of VO2 max was built up when you were a kid. So if you played outside a lot, you played sports, you did a lot of that, that's like where your base layer is. Then it starts to advance a little bit more as you're training in it, et cetera, et cetera. So zone 2 helps with your aerobic capacity. And the reason why it's important to train within zone 2, especially for people that are looking for more of like a physique goal, is because that's where your maximum fat oxidation starts to happen. So your VT1, right, starts to happen at the beginning of zone 2. Right, so that's when you burn the most fat. Yay! So it's literally something that's like a talking base level pace, right? So on a run, most people tend to overshoot that, right? Because the minute that you start running, you pick up your pace, you're like in zone 4. Your heart rate's like, okay, we're up there, right? Because it's something that's a little bit more strenuous on the body. So when you're in zone 4 and zone 5 have their place too. Zone 5 is like when you're really peaking. Let's say like that's like race pace, and you're really like going all out. You should still be careful because when you go too high, you can have problems with your heart. You don't want to cause anything that's like too dangerous. But zone 4, it's like high intensity interval training. You can go into some intervals, right, when you're running. Or if you're hitting like more of a threshold run, that's when you're really pushing base.
But so are you not going to burn fat in zone 4?
You do, but then you start to use a lot more of your anaerobic, right? So it starts to become a lot more muscular. That's where you start to feel cramping, right? That's where your legs start to feel a lot more lactic acid. So there's zone 2 is a lot more of your aerobic into zone 3. So that's more lung capacity, heart rate, and then like blood flow. And then your zone 4 and 5 start to become more anaerobic. So that's where it's like you start to fatigue a little bit more. You get a little bit more tired.
Okay.
And they're like, let's say your legs can't keep running because you're like, oh, I'm just so tired. And why? Because you were in zone 4.
What's better? Like if you had to pick one for that day, or no, honestly, just what's better? Getting 10,000 steps or more a day, or like doing a 30-minute incline walk? Like what if you just can't do both that day?
Oh, 30-minute walk.
Really?
For sure. You're
Not
going to
10K steps?
Well, 10K steps, yes, because you're moving throughout the day. But that 30-minute walk, you're going to probably get close to the 10,000. So it ends up being like,
Yeah, you're probably
it kind of equates.
Interesting. Okay, cool. I mean, I kind of like do both. But
Yeah.
I was just wondering, like sometimes on certain days I'm like, should I just go for like an hour zone 1 walk, or should I just like go incline walk on like a treadmill or something?
So zone 1 walks and stuff and like steps, that's more of like a NEAT, right? So it's like a
Yeah.
non-exercise activity.
Yeah.
So you're just getting in more movement, which is perfect because you're burning a little bit more at that. But zone 2, it's just like, that's more for heart health.
Yeah.
Right. So
okay.
creating a little bit more of like your body's capability of like learning. That's why when you're training in zone 2, especially for like races and stuff, your body doesn't know the difference whether or not it's running or it's walking. It just knows that its heart is working at a zone 2 pace.
Okay.
So if you have to walk it out, cool.
Yeah.
But your body knows that like your heart is beating as fast as it can to get oxygen to the rest of like blood flow to the rest of your body. Okay, cool. Take a little walk. Then once it goes back down to low zone 2 into zone 1, pick it up a little bit again. Then dial back into it. But then as you get more conditioned, you should be able to sustain that zone a little bit longer.
How important is recovery?
Super important.
And what are some of your favorite ways to recover?
Sleep is super important, right? Sleep is, I want to say, the best thing for recovery out of everything, right? Because so many people, and especially nowadays, there's so much out there that people are like, oh, ice bath, saunas, steam room, blah, 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 this, that, and the next. Like the Normatec boots, and they get the thermos, but then they're not sleeping. And you're just like, that's like your easiest, the cheapest thing for you to do.
It's free.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So sleeping, I will say, is the best thing for recovery, because that's when you're allowing your body to fully heal, right? So all the work that you put in, all the fuel that you gave your body, all the exertion that you're doing, that's literally your body recharging to be able to feel its best self, instead of it being like consistently running on high. And most often than not, when people are not sleeping or sleeping well, that's what affects them in terms of their performance, whether they're going to feel really good, see the results that they want to see, because they're not sleeping.
Do you think it's more the hours you sleep or like the consistency that you're, or that you have, the quality of the sleep?
Yeah. I will say also routine is important, right? So like kind of creating a circadian rhythm. So you don't want to mess too much with like what time you're going to bed and like changing that up too much, or what time you're waking up, right? I don't know if it's happened to you guys, but like if you wake up one day and you're waking up at like, let's say 6, right? And the next day you wake up at 8. And then your body's just like, I'm more tired when I woke up at 8 versus at 6. Or and then you're flip-flopping between the two, versus if like you have a week where you wake up at the same time every single day, you're like, wow, I actually feel pretty good.
I know, I was gonna ask about that. I didn't know if you had the answer. I guess you do. But like people say, even on the weekend, you shouldn't wake up more than like 2 hours later than your normal time of waking up during the week. And I guess like that's why, because it's gonna throw you off for your next week, or
100%.
Yeah.
You're throwing off your whole like rhythm, right? I think our bodies are very complicated, one, but they're actually not, right? So it's just they need a certain steady, they like routine. So if you can keep your body in a good routine of like a certain bedtime, like off the phone at a certain hour, waking up at a certain time, giving yourself that good consistency, getting sunshine in the morning if you're capable of doing so, like that's what's going to allow you to actually feel pretty good and like in the best way that you can. So if, even though it sucks sometimes waking up at a certain time, you're doing yourself more of a disservice waking up at later times, even though it feels good, then you are waking up early and staying consistent with that. Because an earlier rise makes you go to bed earlier.
Yeah.
Later rise and you go to bed later, then it throws you off for the next day, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. What practical tips do you have for women who are just starting to strength train?
Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of the gym. Like
That's like the hardest part, I think.
The gym was scary before.
Yeah.
It
was
still
scary.
can be, right?
If you're going to a new gym and you're like trying to see where all the equipment is and you're trying to like get the lay of the land, I'm always like, but you know, it's up.
Yeah, exactly.
now.
It's like you don't know, you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And then there's all these guys that are there and there's just testosterone.
Yeah.
So it's allowing yourself to have that confidence to be okay being a female in the gym and have fun with it, right? Yeah, people are in their own worlds too, though. So it's like if you're working out, like everyone's kind of in their own world, probably thinking the same thing that you are. Of like, is someone looking at me? Is someone thinking that I'm doing something weird? No, you're in your own world. As you're there. That's the important part. The fact that you're actually at the gym, doing what you need to do, and also don't be afraid to ask for help. I think that's the biggest thing that people make a mistake on, is having too much of an ego when they're in the gym and feeling like they're doing everything right, and not asking for help, and then getting injured or something happening or sticking to their same routine and then not seeing the changes that they want to, and they repeat that cycle. I can't tell you how many people I see at the gym that look the same that they have the past 4 years.
How do you think women can set realistic goals, and how can they track their progress?
Make it a non-negotiable, right?
Okay, that's good.
So the same way that you're scheduling in meetings, schedule in your workout, right? I work with CEOs that literally feel like they have no time. And I'm like, okay, cool. When do you take care of yourself?
Yeah.
When do you have time to go to the bathroom? When are you having lunch? Can you have lunch and then also work out? Or can you work out and then get a quick lunch, right? So, and a lot of people are very schedule oriented. So when you're not blocking some time off for yourself to have a workout in, and then you're just like meetings back to back, have you eaten? Have you even had a second?
My boyfriend comes home every day. I didn't have lunch today. I'm like, why? Like, why?
Yeah.
It's crazy. Anyway, never be me.
People become zombies. They get like stuck, especially people that work in big corporate jobs, like, and people that run around too, right? A lot of real estate agents also like are constantly running around. And I'm like, hey, did you ever sit down and grab lunch? Like, oh, no, but I had like a quick like little snack on the way to this showing. I'm like, what if you scheduled in time for you to actually get that done, right? Then it makes it a little bit easier. Or like if they had lunch, but then they don't have dinner and they skip their dinners, or their dinners are like trash. And I'm like, cool. What if like when you went to, let's say, Carrot Express, you got that wrap? Cool. That was an amazing wrap that you got. Why don't we get 2 of those? Put one in the fridge so then it's ready for you for when you have dinner. Does that work? Yeah. Awesome. Cool. Let's go ahead and try to do that as often as we can.
Solution oriented. Is there a better time to work out during the day?
It's when you can get it in. I mean, obviously there's like certain ways that you feel better, but everyone's a little different. Some people I know perform really, really well 6 a.m. Some people come in at 5 a.m. I will never be at the gym at 5, but some people do.
Couldn't be right now. Yeah.
And then some people that like really working out in the evenings, but it depends on their schedule, right? So like doctors, for example, they like working out in the evenings or really early in the morning because that's the only time that they can get it in.
Right.
When do you see people like pretty much they're like starting their journey, whatever, but then it all becomes like for a short-term goal and not a lifestyle? Like maybe you have a client, they got to the weight they want to be, they're at their like perfect whatever physique, and then like there's just no longevity in that. Like how would you say the best way is to preserve longevity, like in the gym, in working out, in keeping like just in shape in general?
I think that gets a little bit more psychological with working with the client, right? Kind of what I touched base at the beginning is realizing like what is that deeper reasoning why, and then seeing if they start to kind of go off that path, right? So if someone's like, all right, I reached my goal, and that's like all they're focused on, why did they want to just stop there, right? It's like kind of like people that do fad diets. Cool, they do it for a certain thing, a wedding, right? Or an event or something, they have a deadline. But then they don't see past that. So it's like working with them to have them understand that there's life past that event and understand like, okay, cool, we're going to get there. What are we going to do next?
Yeah.
Like, right. So like sometimes people are very short, not blindsided, because that's the wrong word. I wouldn't put that word to it, but it's more so like short-sighted of like, they're not seeing the long-term goal. So it's helping people understand that.
What's one fitness rule that you live by?
A rule.
Yeah.
Put your weights away.
That's funny. That's funny.
Re-rack your weights.
Okay, we have one more question, which we finish every single episode with. What is one actionable tool or tip you can give our listeners today that their future selves will thank them for?
Love yourself. I will say love yourself.
How do you love yourself?
Prioritizing my own time to work out.
Okay.
And giving myself time to just be in silence. My job is very full of social.
Yeah.
A lot of noise too, as you notice. Sometimes the gym can get really loud. And I'm very much an introvert. Although at work I'm very extroverted, I'm like always talking to people and so on. I need that time to allow myself to recharge, to feel really good, to like give myself that healing, and like being okay with setting boundaries. So
we love boundaries.
Yeah.
Kat, thank you so much for coming on. Where can everybody find you? What's your socials? If they want to work with you?
Feel free to slide into the DMs, but coach.cat.vo on Instagram. And yeah, feel free to follow me there. I'm not
beautiful.
You went out to Brickell Heights.
Yes, in Miami.
In Miami. Kat, thank you so much.
I appreciate it.
Happy Friday, you guys. Hope you enjoy this episode, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you for having me.
Ciao, bye.